Hey everybody, I'm Jacob Castro and welcome to another video here on Jacob's Aquarium. Hope you guys are doing good and hope your tanks are doing good as well. So you may notice that I'm in a different place. I'm not at the nursery. I'm not in the skeleton greenhouse because it's not finished yet. I'm actually in my room, in my closet. Yeah, this closet was actually perfect size for my IKEA desk, and I thought, well, let's turn it into an office, and so that's what I did. And I'll show you guys more. Maybe in another video, I'll give you guys a tour of the closet office, which may inspire some of you that are looking for some space-saving office ideas, because this definitely gives me much more space out in my room. But it's nice. Yeah, and my IKEA does fit perfectly in here, and I'll definitely show you guys all of that in another video. But today in this video, the very first video that I'm making in my office studio, closet office studio, whatever you want to call it, I wanted to talk about what it was like to work at a fish store. And not a place that sells salmon, trout, like a tropical fish store, like a place where you sell tropical fish. And I decided to make this my first topic for my first closet office discussion or podcast, video, whatever you want to call it, because I was talking to a friend recently about all of that, what it was like to work at a fish store. And I was just reminiscing over all the issues and, all the bad times, all the good times. And, he told me, he's like, hey, I've seen some of the podcasts that you've done on your YouTube channel. You should talk about this, on your YouTube channel. I think people might actually find it pretty fascinating. So I thought about it and I'm like, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. So grabbed my camera, set up my microphone on my desk and everything. And I did all that 5 minutes ago. And here we are. So whenever I get inspired to do things, I do it just like that, or I try to. So, all right, so let's talk about it. What was it like to work at a fish store? Well, let me give you some backstory first. So the way I got my job at a fish store is a little out of the ordinary. And I say that because I got my job at the fish store. You may notice that I'm not using its name. That's for legal purposes. Because things did not end well, but we'll get there in a little bit. So I started working at this fish store because I was contacting fish stores like crazy through email and over the phone, asking them if I could film a video at their store, like a tour of their entire shop, because people really liked seeing stuff like that on my YouTube channel. If you go to my YouTube channel right now, you search for a store tour, aquarium store tour, you'll see a bunch of them that I've made throughout the years, and they're really, really interesting. And to be quite honest, they've gotten the most views out of pretty much all the videos that I've uploaded on my channel. So people really like them. So I decided to, continue with that for quite a while. But then my dad mentioned something like, he's like, hey, you're not getting paid to do these videos. I know you're getting paid through, Google and YouTube and stuff, but, the businesses aren't paying you anything, and they're the ones benefiting the most from the exposure that they're getting from the videos that you're making. So my dad brought up a good point, because I did not charge these stores a dime. The deal was, I'll come in, I'll film a video of your store, and I won't charge you anything because I'll benefit from it by getting more subscribers and getting paid through the advertising revenue that I get a percentage of through Google and YouTube, or well, they're basically the same thing. And that's it, And, sometimes these stores would give me like free things, like they'd give me some free fish food, or they give me a, discount off of certain things, because some of them just, they felt like they needed to give me something, even though I said, no, it's okay. You don't have to give me anything. But for the most part, these stores were not paying me anything, and they were getting a lot of views. Um, the video that I made at the fish store that I started working at got all the way up to like 500,000 views before I deleted it. Like I said, things did not end well. We'll get there in a little bit. But these stores got a lot of attention on YouTube, primarily because I think people like to see the places that they're interested in buying their, fish hobby supplies from first before they go there. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, there's been a lot of fish stores that I've found on the internet that I've been to that I've been like, ugh, I would have never came here if I knew it was like this. So if I had the opportunity to see the store before I actually took the time to go there, I definitely would take advantage of that. So that's what these people did. And that's why these videos got a lot of views, or that's what they did, in my opinion. There may be other reasons, but that's just what I think. So the last store that I made a video at, I did the video, uploaded it, was getting views, everything was going great. Then my dad mentioned that, and so I thought, you know what, let me call the store and ask them if they had a job opening, or if they wanted to collaborate even more, make more videos on YouTube, something. And then I also thought too, well, this store doesn't have a website. Well, actually they did, but it wasn't really that good. So I thought, well, the store really doesn't have a good website, and they don't sell anything online. And I really wanted to get into selling plants on the internet. I just didn't know how to start doing that. Obviously I do now. So I thought, maybe this is a perfect opportunity to team up with a business and, make YouTube videos and just collaborate, and do all kinds of cool stuff in this hobby. So that's what I did. I called the store. I talked directly to the owner, asked him that. He said, okay, come on in. We'll talk about this and see what we can do, So long story short, I end up talking to the guy. I get to know him. We ended up talking for at least 2 or 3 hours. It was a long time. I was shocked that he had the time to talk to me for that long. I will admit it was mostly all about him. I really didn't even get a chance to get a word in for the most part, which kind of explained to me sort of what I was getting myself into with him and his attitude. He really wasn't the type of guy that was interested in what you had to say. It was mostly about him and what he had to say. I really felt as though I didn't get 2 words in during the entire conversation. But that's just how it went. And I'm like, well, he's eventually going to be my boss. And, you want to be nice to the boss if you want to get the job. So I just sat there and listened and, was a good, soon to be employee. So I ended up getting the job, and I got hired to be the internet manager. There really wasn't a name for what I was doing, so I just came up with it on my own. And I said, I told them, how does internet manager sound to you? Handle, I'll build a new website for you guys. I'll make all the YouTube videos, and I'll manage all the stuff that's sold on the internet, everything. So I said, since I'm doing all that, internet manager, he's like, okay, sounds great. Okay, so that's what I did. I would come to work every day with my laptop, and I'd take pictures of stuff that we had in the store to then sell on the website, primarily aquatic plants. We opened an account with an aquatic plant vendor out of Thailand. We did all these things. I set up a couple of fish tanks in a different room of the store to start, using them as stock tanks to hold all the plants that we were going to sell. I built the website. I did a lot of stuff. I was working really, really hard on this whole new creation for this store. And I was also making YouTube videos. Like every day I was going there and I was getting a paycheck, which was really cool. I was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, and it was like my first real job. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have like money coming in on a regular basis. This is so cool, because up until then I wasn't used to that. So I was getting paid, and I was doing all this work though. Like, like even when I came home, I was editing videos for the store. I was doing stuff to the website. I was talking to customers that had questions. I was doing all kinds of stuff. So I was working really, really, really hard. And I felt like the owner of the store, my boss, was, for the amount of money he was paying me, he was really getting his money's worth, because I was working a lot and things were going very, very well. All the videos that I've made got thousands and thousands of views. I made videos about setting up aquariums. Not only was this a fish store, but they actually delivered aquariums and set them up in customers' homes. And I filmed the entire process. And of course, every setup is different. So it was really cool. It was kind of like the show Tanked, not as extravagant. These tanks didn't cost $100,000 or anything. But everything was different. It was really cool to see the whole setup process for everything. So that's what I did. And like I said, the videos were getting lots and lots of views. Things were going really, really well. I was getting a lot of orders on our new website for aquatic plants. And so far, the customers were loving the aquatic plants, and everything was just going really, really well. But then, out of nowhere, I got told, "Hey, Jacob, come into the break room." And I was like, okay. I had never been told that before. So I started to get a little worried. I'm like, oh no, am I losing my job? Did I do something wrong? I don't know. So I was nervous, but I went in there, sat down, same spot that I was in when I first talked to the owner, when I first got the job. And he said that, I'm not really happy with the growth rate of the website and all the internet stuff. And I'm not making enough money to cover what I'm paying you. Now, let's stop right there. What he told me was a complete lie. And he knew it. He really did know it. Now, while I will admit, I was getting paid $400 a week. I was getting paid every 2 weeks, so $800 every 2 weeks. And I was a 1099 employee, so no taxes were being taken out. I don't know if that benefited him or not. Maybe it did. I don't know. But I was getting paid $400 every week, $800 every 2 weeks when I would get paid. So I get paid twice a month, $800, $1,600 a month, which is, it's okay. You can't survive on that in California, I don't really think, but it's okay. So that's what I was getting paid. And I will admit, we were not selling $1,600 worth of plants on our new website every single month, or any of the other products that we would sell. I would say that maybe we were selling maybe half of that on the internet, which was still pretty good. And think about this. I didn't work at this fish store for that long. I worked at this fish store for probably, I would say, 4 or 5 months. So to build a website that quickly and it be successful and have, revenue profit from the start is pretty good. And I should have mentioned that the only way that was possible was because all the marketing I did for the website on my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel had nothing to do with the store. The owner didn't create that. He didn't manage that. I created that. It was the reason why the website got the traffic that it did was because of the following that I built over the years that I had been on YouTube previously before getting this job. So not only that, okay, that was just one of the benefits that the owner was getting by paying me as an employee. And, not only that, but that marketing also brought in local customers, and not just one or two, literally 3 or 4 every single day. People were coming into the store wanting to meet me because they saw me on YouTube and they wanted to meet me in person. They wanted to meet the owner. They wanted to check out the store. They liked what they saw on the internet, so they wanted to buy stuff from the store. They didn't want to have it shipped to their home because they were local. There were even some people that came in, like they were visitors from out of state and they were vacationing, and they decided to stop by at the store. So we were getting visitors from pretty much all across the country. And it was, and like I said, it wasn't like once or twice a week. It was every single day. And every single person bought something. And even if they didn't spend $50 or $100 each, the owner was making well over these $1,600 that he was paying me every month, because of all the people coming in locally, all the sales that we got on the internet, and all the marketing I was doing on my YouTube channel. So I guess that wasn't obvious to him. He didn't think that was the case. So during this conversation in the break room, he tells me exactly what I just said. I'm not getting my money's worth with you. You're not selling $1,600 worth of aquatic plants. So what do you think about moving out into the fish room? And I'm like, oh, you mean working out in the fish room, cleaning fish tanks and stuff? And yeah. And I was like, well, it's going to be kind of hard to, and then he cut me off. I could never get a word in with this guy. But what I was going to say was it was going to be kind of difficult to be the internet manager and to also clean fish tanks all day. But I couldn't really get that across to him. So being that I wanted to keep my job, I developed bills. I bought a car. So now I needed money coming in, so I couldn't lose my job. So I thought if I said no, he would tell me, okay, well, this isn't working out, you're fired basically. So I'm like, okay, I need to keep this job. So I need to do whatever I can to continue working here. So I told him, okay, that's fine. I'll try to do both, be the internet manager, and I'll also try to, clean fish tanks in the store. So that's what I did. And let me tell you, it was incredibly stressful because my boss really loved to hover. He really loved to micromanage the employees, which, by the way, it was pretty much just me and 2 other coworkers, a guy and a girl. It wasn't like a huge team. And this was a pretty big store. For 3 people to run a store like that, somehow we did it. So I tried to do all that. And it was incredibly stressful because while I would be cleaning a tank and having to deal with my boss micromanaging me, literally complaining, yelling at me for not scrubbing a fish tank vertically. Instead, I was scrubbing it horizontally. In the back of my mind, I knew that, I have like 15 orders to package today for the website. I probably have emails from customers that I'm not answering. And my boss would not let me, stop doing one thing so that I can focus on the internet stuff. He wanted everything done in a very timely manner. And, he really didn't prioritize the internet stuff. It was mostly just the in-store stuff, cleaning fish tanks and everything. And, we weren't really given, this is just something I want to throw in because it's funny to me. We weren't really given, the proper things to clean a fish tank. It was quite hilarious how, the things that we were given to clean fish tanks were very, very basic. For example, when you're cleaning a 300-gallon aquarium, you need some way to do a water change. And, one way you can do that is by creating a siphon. But, these tanks were on these huge stands, these display stands, and they were taller than us, because not only were the tanks on these display stands, but they were also on these big concrete stage-like things, so the tanks were abnormally high. um, but still, we could create a siphon to clean the fish tank, but it was kind of difficult. So we'd have to use a ladder, and we couldn't use a water pump. He would not allow us to use a water pump to create a siphon. So we'd have to, do it the old-fashioned way and try to suck air out of the hose with our mouths. And I can't tell you how many times that either my coworker or myself got water in our mouths, and it was disgusting because that is water from a nasty, dirty fish tank, turtle tank, goldfish tank, saltwater tank. We had all of them there, so it was disgusting. So I mean, the job, health wise, wasn't really the didn't seem to be the healthiest, safest job. And then not only that, but like the tools we were given were like sort of broken, and they weren't really like the scrubbing pad things were all like busted apart. It was just very basic, so we did the best with what we had, with what we were given. But we would still get complaints from the owner about how, we weren't cleaning a tank properly. Like I said, one of the things he would complain about is, scrubbing a fish tank this way instead of that way. And then a lot of the ways that, we were forced to clean fish tanks were really out of the ordinary. Like, for example, one of the tanks, and this was a day that, my boss was yelling at me like crazy. I was cleaning one of the goldfish tanks, and this is one of the rare occasions I was allowed to use a pump, but I was allowed to use it in the approved way. And that's what he would tell us all the time, in the approved way. This is the approved way, and that's the only way you can do it. Not your way, the approved way. So on the rare occasion that I was allowed to use a pump, cleaning this fish tank, my boss yelled at me because I had a water pump inside of the fish tank and a hose coming out from the water pump, and it was siphoning water onto the ground. And I was disturbing the gravel substrate in the aquarium to try to loosen all the debris so it would get sucked out through the pump. That wasn't good enough. My boss said, he yelled at me, but I'm not going to yell at you guys. He said, you don't do it that way. You have to pick up the pump, and you have to disturb the gravel, and you have to, like you're mowing a lawn, go up and down, vertically, the gravel, as you disturb the gravel, the stuff will get sucked up through the pump. And while that seems like it could work, that pump was huge. That pump was probably like this big. So imagine a tank this high, extremely high, and you have to hold a pump, and then you have to disturb the gravel, and you have to agitate it, and there's water going everywhere because the hose is not long enough. It's going all over you. It was too much, and it just was not necessary, because while that would get a tank very, very clean, it wasn't necessary. First of all, with any aquarium that has a gravel substrate, you don't want to disturb it to the point to where it's super, super clean, because that's where a lot of beneficial bacteria lies. But this is how we were forced to clean fish tanks, and we'd always get complaints like, oh, there's a bunch of dead goldfish in the goldfish tank. I wonder why. Maybe it's because we're not cleaning them properly, but it was never his fault. It was always our fault. So not only having to deal with a difficult boss and all of that stuff, I saw a lot of things that were kind of sad. One of the things that was really upsetting to me was, my coworker, bless her heart, okay, sometimes she wouldn't pay attention, and she'd have a pump inside of a tank that she was cleaning, and a lot of these pumps did not have pre-filters on them or anything, so there was nothing protecting fish from being sucked into these pumps. And I remember her cleaning a goldfish tank one day, and like 6 customers came in, and she had to help them. I couldn't even help customers because I wasn't allowed to. Because in my boss's mind, I wasn't I wasn't approved to do that yet. So she had to abandon cleaning the goldfish tank. If she didn't, my boss was going to yell at her. And she forgot about the pump, and the pump sucked in a bunch of goldfish and, needless to say, killed a bunch of them. And that was very hard to watch. And my boss just came along and scooped them up and threw them away. They're very disposable. A lot of the fish that we sold were they weren't, in my opinion, looked at as like living things. Um, they were just looked at as like inventory, and it was pretty sad because I feel as though they could have been taken care of a little bit better. For example, also, we had these huge catfish, these huge red-tailed catfish that basically lived in the filtration system in this warehouse type fish store, Um, and, the filtration system was not that big. So these fish, these huge red-tailed catfish that were probably like 2.5 feet long, would just literally sit and float in one place all day. And it was really sad to watch because I used to think all the time, like, imagine what life would be like for them if they were just out like in a big pond or something, but they would just sit there and float all day. And it was so depressing to watch. I'd often come up and like, try to pet them and everything, and or give them, some little cichlid pellets, as treats, and they would always eat it really quickly. And it was really cool. They really like to be pet. They're really sociable. Is that the right word? Fish. It was kind of interesting, Um, so yeah, that to me was pretty upsetting. And people had actually made comments about that on Yelp. In some of the bad reviews, I saw people saying, why do they have huge fish in such a small tank? It wasn't a tank. It was like the wet, dry sump area, of the filter. Like I said, the filtration system. So that I really didn't like. And then, there were some other stuff that I saw that I thought were pretty messed up. Like, for example, one time we were delivering an aquarium stand to a customer's home. And because my boss refused to package, to like wrap things with towels or bubble wrap or something as they were being packaged, because he didn't want to spend the money on that, he basically just threw it in the back of a van and drove it to the customer's house. But in doing so, it chipped one of the wood stands in multiple places. And like in the driveway, as we're delivering the stand, my boss is coloring in dents and chips out of the wood with a Sharpie because the stand was black. And I was like, oh my God, if I was a customer and I knew about that, although the damage is minor, still, these people would pay like $500-$600 for these aquarium stands. And that's the other thing. Everything in the store was really overpriced. I don't know why, but like a 50-gallon aquarium tank and stand, made out of wood and glass, not acrylic, nothing like that, was like over $1,000. It was ridiculous. I don't know why things are so expensive, but people bought them. It was crazy. So people would spend so much money on these things. And I know my boss was overpricing them, or overcharging them. And on top of that, now they have a damaged stand that's been colored in with Sharpie. Oh man. So things like that happen. And, like I said, there were a lot of things that I just didn't think were too nice, So my experience working at a fish store was quite unique. Of course, I worked at the fish store that I worked at. I didn't work at a fish store that represents the entire industry. But I worked at this fish store. So that was my experience, and I really didn't like it. I ended up quitting because there was one day where my boss was yelling at me all day. Like, in his mind, I wasn't doing anything right. And whenever I do anything wrong, I'm willing to admit it. You know why? Because when you admit that you're doing something wrong, you admit a mistake you make, and you acknowledge it, it only helps you grow as a person and, do things better the next time. By not acknowledging your mistakes, you're just setting yourself up for failure, which explains a lot of people in our government right now, but we won't get into that. So, but whenever it came down to anything that my boss was yelling at me for, that reaction or just being told anything in general, it just was not necessary because I was doing a good job. We all were doing a good job, but we still all got yelled at every single day. And like I said, this one day, it was just horrible. My boss was yelling at me all day, and like half the power went out to the store because I used an unapproved outlet, even though I was told to use that outlet in the beginning. It's just weird. And my boss would not tell me how to turn the power back on. He was telling me like, you did this, you messed it up, you need to fix it, you need to figure out how to turn the power back on. I'm not going to tell you. You should have known the approved way. And so I'm running around the store trying to figure out how to turn the power back on. And there's customers staring at me and at my boss because he's yelling at me. My boss would not hold back. My boss would yell at us in front of customers. It was very, very embarrassing. And finally, I somehow got the power turned back on. And after that, I said, you know what? I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I was so like, and it was funny because soon after that, I was hospitalized with a heart condition. I can't say that was related, but I will definitely say that it's a possibility. So I quit. My boss went out to pick up stuff from the store, to restock the store. I quit. And I just walked out. And there's a lot more to the story after that, but I really won't go into it. Let's just say that I was threatened with legal action because I took something with me. Well, I guess I can tell you guys. I took these aquarium lights that I had brought into the store. The only reason why I got them was because I did a deal with Marineland, and I offered to make a video about their aquatic plant LEDs in exchange for keeping the aquatic plant LEDs, So they sent me a bunch of them, and I reviewed them and everything, and I thought, hey, these would work great over the tanks that we made at the store to stock all the plants. So I brought them to the store, and I used them there. But when I took them with me, when I quit, my boss called me and he threatened to sue me for taking the lights. And I told him, well, I took them because I made a deal with Marineland through my YouTube channel to make a video about them. But I just thought they would work good here at the store because the lights that my boss gave me to use were not the right lights, because my boss is very cheap, very cheap. So he didn't give me the good aquatic plant LEDs. So I'm like, okay, I got these now. Let me use these so these plants will actually grow. And that's another thing. Not only was I using things that I, got myself, through sponsorship deals or whatever, I was also buying things for my job because my boss would not give me the things that I needed for my job. I had to bring in those lights. I had to bring in CO2 supplies because my boss did not want to buy any of that stuff. And whenever I'd ask him to, he's like, okay, I'll get it. Never got it. I had to bring in, some fertilizer for the tanks, for the plants, because my boss would not give me that. He says they're too expensive, and customers need to buy them in the store. And it was very, very irritating that. So, but yeah, he threatened to sue me because I took the lights with me when I left, and I told him, well, I got these through a sponsorship deal with Marineland through my YouTube channel. This had nothing to do with the store. And he said, no, you got those because you worked here and you told them you did, and you told them you were going to use those lights over these tanks and they were meant for these tanks. And I'm like, okay, dude, you know what? I'm not gonna do this with you over, $300-400 worth of aquarium lights. Here you go. I came back, I gave them to him, and I was like, good riddance. And that was it. That's my experience working at a fish store. Like I said, that doesn't account for every fish store out there. I'm sure there are plenty of fish stores where they're amazing and the employees are happy and everything's just great, But that was my experience working at a fish store. And while it was terrible, it was stressful, it was very taxing on me and my heart. Like I said, I got a heart condition afterwards. I'm not sorry that it happened. You know why? Because it led me right here. Quitting that job and being as frustrated and angry as I was, I told myself, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. I can sell aquatic plants. I know how to do it. I can do it 10 times better. And that's what I did. Now I'm here talking to you guys. So that's my experience working at a fish store. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for more closet studio office videos. I'm going to get some aquarium related artwork for the background. I'm also going to try to paint this wall as well. It has a bunch of black scuffs on it. But stay tuned. I got a lot more great stuff coming up on the channel that we'll be discussing in the future. And if you guys are interested in aquatic plants, visit jacobsaquarium.com, where I have almost 100 different species of aquatic plants to choose from, all at the most affordable price on the internet. Also, don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Or I should don't forget to check me out on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All my social media links will be in the description below. I've been talking for too long. I'm starting to lose it. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Have fun with your tanks, and I will see you next time.